welcome back to another exciting edition of the Cardinal Couple Radio Hour podcast, where we discuss the joy and excitement of U of L women's athletics. And as was kind of alluded to into his article, maybe not a lot of joy and excitement out there right now, but we'll still try to muddle our way through it and bring up the highs and maybe the lows of Louisville women's athletics as we are officially in summer now. None of our women's teams are participating in any actual D1 sports right now, but we certainly have some things to get into today about some stuff that has happened. But let's go ahead and introduce our crew today on board. Jared is out doing some things with his church group today, so we won't have him, but we do have Case and Daryl, and let's go ahead and start with Case. Case, what's going on with yourself?
Not a lot. It's just work, work, and more work. So I'm as busy as U of L women's athletics are not. So
Well, that certainly, at least it's job security, right?
yeah.
There you go. And Daryl in the house today. Daryl, nice to have you on board with us. And what's going on with your summer lately?
Morning, guys. It's me and Lulu checking in. She wouldn't let me close the door without coming in to join the party. So say hi, Lulu.
Lulu's missed the broadcast lately, I know. She sent me an email the other day and was kind of mad at you, but anyway. Everything's done on campus.
Just got the busy season at work with our house staff coming in the summer. And then we're going to just, I've been going back and forth between campuses, but looks like my department is being eliminated with the new president. And so we're just kind of playing it by ear and seeing how it goes. I think July 1st is our new department name transition. So really fun times trying to figure out what the heck I do.
That's usually most of the time down there for you, though, isn't it?
Pretty much. Every 4 months, it's like, okay, I got a new job description or something.
It's got to be a little frustrating, I would think, maybe in a way, although it is job security that you're still going to be there. You just don't know exactly where your responsibilities and things you have to do lie and what your name's going to be in department wise and everything else.
Yep, it is kind of weird considering coming up on 3 years there, and like I said, it just feels like a new job every 4 months. But I have a very important role of onboarding people, which includes getting them ready for their new job and a lot of immigrants and visas. So that's been interesting to navigate as well.
For sure, and at least it isn't waterboarding. So, with Daryl, all things are ever changing on campus, but then again, campus is ever changing as well. So
seriously, they're always building something, and I swear it's no joke. Every time I find a parking spot, they end up paving over it, and I have to find a new one.
Yeah, I know that at one time they were kind of reached a standstill on putting up stuff, but all of a sudden, man, it's just a full blast on the construction down there, and which is a good sign. That means there's things that are happening and going on as far as getting money in to be able to do this kind of stuff. Even though,
yeah, I think my tuition it paid for the new speed school building they're putting up now.
Oh gosh, yeah. Well, having gone through having the rigors and the woes of college tuition myself many years ago, I can feel for you. Obviously, a lot more expensive than when I went to school, but that monthly payment is still kind of a pain. I agree with you.
You still paying that?
No.
I was gonna say, God.
I just remember where I was having to, and I was like, God, is this ever going to end?
Nope.
But eventually it will. So you'll be able to spend that money on Lulu, and she'll be happy. As for herself, really not a whole lot going on here on my end. We've been actually we're down in Gatlinburg to have a nice little kind of respite for a few days and catching up with some old friends and ran into some new friends that we made, and we will be going back down in a couple weeks. As I've got some relatives on my dad's side in Sevierville, which is just north of Gatlinburg, that are going to have a 4th of July celebration. And so they wanted to invite their long lost cousin, nephew, whatever I am to them, depending on who it is, down to see it. And they absolutely fell in love with Sonia. So we are going to go back and see what's going on down there on the 4th of July in Gatlinburg. So could be fun. But I know things will be in good hands up here. Speaking of good hands up here, let's go ahead and jump on into the meat and bones of the show. Good hands usually means softball, but softball appears to be losing their grip on a couple of key players here, and so let's kind of go to you guys, Daryl, about this and what's going on here. We've lost a very, very good player here.
I know, and this sucks because this is the nature of the business anymore, and it is a business these days. The way that the game has changed, and the shopping of players, and the freedom they have, and I mean it's not a knock towards them because they definitely deserve some compensation for their efforts and whatnot. But you get excited by a player, and off season comes, and they switch ships. It's just the nature of the business, and that was Char Lorenz was a great player for the Cards this year. She's just a freshman, a redshirt freshman, so you saw so much potential for her return, and lo and behold, SEC team comes in and snatches her right up. I do believe that there are some scouts out there, some like the donors and the alumni that are paying these paychecks for these players that I bet there's like some sort of what's the word where community slash recruiting group, you know what I'm saying, who just keeps their eyes on these players that are making the all ACC, the all Big 12 and the other conferences, yada yada, and trying to get them into the SEC. And she's from Munster, Indiana, and that's just a small town, so I can see the appeal of heading south and to the SEC in a big place like LSU. So I'm sure she had a nice little payday, and she's got plenty of years left in the tank. So just one of those things you have to kind of take your licks. And I mean, Holly April's going to have to get back to work, find someone to replace her.
Yeah, in case she was a full-time starter for the Cards last year in the season that just ended here, playing in all 50 games, all starts, and primarily in left field, but certainly was a good fielder. More known for her bat. She was anywhere from second to fourth or fifth in the lineup in batting. She led the team in batting average at 368, had 53 RBIs, and also broke the single season freshman record for 53 RBIs. And so certainly who came in and made a big impression on us, what's gone. And take a look at this maybe outside the box here without getting called out. What's Collie got to do to keep these players?
I don't know. I don't, and I I mean, the answer is find more money. That's the obvious step. You look at the trend. I think this is 3 seasons in a row of a Louisville star departing for an SEC program, and the first one, Sarah Gordon, made a little bit of sense. She's a star freshman. She comes to Louisville from Georgia originally. Is very successful, and Georgia comes calling, and it's like, okay, I get it, right? Like, I don't like it, but I get it. The next one, Corby Otis, she's from Colorado. She was a junior. She has a stellar season, and here comes Florida. And you're like, all right, I don't fully understand this transition quite as much, but sure. And then now, a redshirt freshman has a great season in Char Lorenz, and here comes LSU, and like Daryl said, from Munster, Indiana. It's like I don't. At some point, you're just looking at it. It's like, okay, they're just throwing, cartoonish bags of coins.
It's like a little more than what I make a year, guys.
It's like cartoonish bags of coins at students, and like at very good players, and are like, come here. And we've talked a lot about the talent that Holly April has had, and how it seems like we've just been not quite there. And when you take a step back and you look at this trend, you say, well, maybe we are quite there. Maybe Holly April is doing a good job recruiting. She is doing a good job developing talent. She just can't keep it on the roster. And to Daryl's point, like it's not the way that it used to be, where you had a star player, they transferred out, and you say, okay, what was going on with coaching? What did they not like? What was the issue that led them to believe or feel that they would be better off somewhere else? That's not really the way the game is played anymore. Like, if you have a player that is very good, seems to be gelling very well with the team. Corby Otis was a leader on this team. Her leaving was shocking. And Char Lorenz, I think, could have been in a position to step up in that same way. But you look at it and you say, she's getting the talent, she's developing the talent, and then the talent leaves. Like Louisville is becoming a feeder team at this point. And so I don't know what she has to do.
Are we the minor league? Is the ACC the minor leagues for the SEC? I mean, gosh.
The SEC would like to think so.
The SEC loves the SEC.
That's certainly true in all sports, that the SEC would say, well, we're the top dog. And it's like, okay, well, I didn't realize that the SEC spanned all the way to the middle of Texas twice, Missouri and Oklahoma. Okay, when you continually take these teams and all of this money that they've developed with CBS, with ESPN, and you just say, well, football drives the ship, that football has to be, and this is completely sideways, but this is the rant that I'm going to end up on. Football has to be decoupled from the rest of the conference, the rest of college athletics. At this point, it is absurd that we have turned college football to FBS level, 131 teams, I think it is now. But like, you've turned that into a wannabe NFL, but it's really only 2 leagues that want to be the NFL. The rest of the leagues are just trying to survive, and then teams are just jumping ship left and right. and like, we've to use a phrase from Happy Days, we've jumped the shark. Like, college athletics is absurd. The ACC includes 2 teams from the Pacific Coast and a team from the middle of Texas. Like, it's not... It doesn't make sense. We look at the numbers that just came out of U of L, and in the first season of revenue sharing, U of L athletics sees a deficit. I wonder why. They have to send 8 of their teams that are non-revenue sports across the country 3 times a year. Like, it doesn't make sense. Like, regional conferences existed for a reason. Football is killing them for no gain. Like, what do we see every year? ESPN and the powers that be just rate the SEC teams in, 8 of the 14 SEC teams are ranked in the top 25 in the preseason, and college football schedule is such that it doesn't really matter how you perform if you play ranked teams every week and you finish the season 8-5 and oh no, they're top 15. Like, no, they're not. But
that's true.
But like, you have this same, like, you can't get away from it. And so the SEC and the Big Ten create this cabal of football teams, and every other sport and every other conference is just beholden to it. So yeah, that's my rant, and I don't know how Holly April fixes that for softball, but it's dumb and bad. And like,
I will say, the case that you mentioned Florida, I understand a little bit going there because palm trees and somewhat nice weather in Gainesville the entire year versus the off season that U of L has and whatever. But I agree with you. I didn't even my brain didn't even go to how much money it's costing to send our non-revenue teams to the other side of the country. That's a great point. And
Yeah, I mean, a
just
$12.5 million deficit is pretty easy to find when you say, okay, we sent 18 members of our field hockey program and
yeah,
27 members of our lacrosse program to California.
wow. And
Like,
you'd think they would have had these long drawn out conversations prior to, but it's like you said, all about football.
yeah. Which,
Wow.
when you look at it from that perspective, also makes no sense. Stanford and Cal suck.
Right. You get nothing out of that.
Like the ACC was like the biggest boneheaded decision that they could have made. I mean, there's so many other, but they want to say like, oh well, they're quality programs. They were in the Pac-12. The Pac-12 was terrible. Everybody hated the Pac-12 for everything. It was bad in all sports. Like I don't know what we're doing here. Like there were other programs on the East Coast that you could have added that people would have been like, oh well, but they're lower tier. Look, the ACC is adding second tier programs. Like at least they're still a regional conference, but nope, not now.
I'm sure Memphis looks at all this and just it's kind of like the kid waiting for the bus that never shows up. You know, throwing their hand up in the air. Hey, we're available. Look at us here. Here. No, oh, you went to California to get them. Oh,
Hey,
gee.
I mean, every conference is the American Athletic Conference and Conference USA at this point. Like they all are. Like that's how big they are.
It's sad, and also, well, to put it to you, this is an old fishing buddy of mine who I used to go down to Gatlinburg and see every year while he was still active and doing things. Would take me trout fishing, and his one of his favorite scenes was anybody can hook a trout, but getting him up into your hand and into the basket to take home and cook, it's a different story. He says trouts are going to be trying to get away from the minute you hook them till the minute you get them up on the bank. And we can bring teams in here, but unfortunately, the teams that we're bringing in aren't teams that we're going to be able to look at and say, hey, these are going to be bona fide contributors and teams that are going to tend for national titles and stuff like that. It's just not going to happen. And so, well, in any event, it kind of reminds me of the old days when Louisville was in AAC, you know, and in the Missouri Valley Conference, and we were a strong little giant in our small little realm there. But when you looked at us the national picture, not so much. Of course, really the only exception to that's been basketball, and we've been able to maintain a strong, viable basketball program for almost 20 years now. Of course, when you take a look at it, who was responsible for getting us up there? Danny Crum originally, and then of course Rick Pitino and now Jeff Walsh has kept women's basketball in the forefront. But it is the exception to the rule, gang. It really is. So, in any event, go ahead, Daryl.
Yeah, you know how you're talking about. I don't know how Holly's going to keep these players here. I wonder, and I bet Jared would probably have a little more insight on this. How much previewing is going on by the coaching staff for future squads? Like, I definitely know for women's basketball that current players will host recruits and show them around. Sometimes, share a room with them whenever they're visiting in town and get to know each other and just, establish that vibe between players. I wonder how much of that is going on in the softball program, because you'd think, if players knew who was coming in, that maybe that would entice them to stay, or unless it was a position challenge. I totally get that. But, just, bringing the all the best of the best players together and, just giving them something more to look forward to. And then this is totally like softball lore, but I did start going through the current rosters Instagrams because I was just curious, because there's so many reasons that could contribute to why a player would leave. I think that, how close their family they could be to their family, like we see with Lorenz. She's getting further away from her family. We don't know their relationship or if she really cares if they're there. But specifics. Like I looked at Alyssa Zabala, and she's in a what seems to be a happy relationship, so I don't see her going anywhere. So maybe Lorenz just wanted, some new faces and just to see what is out there in the world. So I look at all those other little random factors too that could contribute to somebody wanting to leave, not just that payday.
Well, I think that can definitely be true, but I do think, and I don't know why it hadn't occurred to me till just now, but Paul mentioning women's basketball helped. I think that the payday is a big part of it because when you look at the landscape of professional athletics, there are sports where college is the peak. Maybe
Yeah.
there's a professional league, but what are you getting out of it?
Right.
What are people getting out of playing professional softball? The joy of playing softball? Like, you've got a job and also you play professional softball. Like,
Maybe the Olympics one day, but
college
like
is the opportunity. If you're saying, I want to get paid,
Yeah.
a few bands to play softball,
Yeah.
at this point, it looks like SEC softball, or if you're Nigel Candy. Kennedy. I thought her name was Candy for a long time, but if,
I thought it was too.
if you're Nigel Kennedy, I guess play for Texas Tech. But like, there's only so long that you can make a career out of softball, and now you have the opportunity to make that money in college. I guess you're going to go where the money is.
Yeah, and then you
Whereas
invest it.
when you're a player like in women's basketball, there's so many fewer roster spots. There's so much more opportunity to make an individual name for yourself. And then you can parlay that into a WNBA career, a long, successful overseas professional career. Team USA, where people know your name in Olympics or FIBA competition. I mean, other than like the major softball heads, people are not rattling off Team USA softball roster members. It's not happening.
Mhm.
And but I bet most people can name the starting five from Team USA women's basketball last year, or whenever the Olympics were. Yeah, last year. Like, I get it. It's the only opportunity, and that's just the situation that we're in. As a college sports fan, it's unfortunate, but that's just kind of the way that it is. It requires, if you want to just be a fan for the sake of being a fan, it requires a reframing, right? The same way that you are a fan of professional sports teams and you get attached to players and then contract negotiations come up or a trade comes up or something happens and you're like, well, still a fan of the Reds for whatever reason that is. But I guess unfortunate that, Johnny Cueto is not a Red anymore. At this point, still a fan of Louisville. Unfortunate that Char Lorenz is not a Cardinal anymore. And so that's not the way that it wants to feel, right? Like, college sports have always felt, especially as an alum, they're your team. And it feels very personal when a player leaves your team. You felt it's a lot less weird to say we when you talk about U of L, right? You're a part of it. You were there. You contributed. You were at every game when you were in college. You're a big proponent now. You're not just somebody who watches the games on TV. Like, it's part of who you are. And so yeah, it hurts. It hurts when a player doesn't. It feels like all the players should have that same buy-in, and then when they leave, you realize they didn't, and it stings. So
yeah. And I'm also thinking, and this is totally just vanity. Just, it depends on how attractive you are. It didn't always depend on how good you are at your sport, because you look at Livy Dune. She's not out there breaking records. She's not out there winning trophies. She's just fun to look at. And then you've got Hannah Hidalgo, and you know what I think about her jewelry line that she started. Like, she doesn't have the same luxury as Livy Dune to just post a picture of herself and everyone, like it and her get a giant payday. She actually has to have some other sort of passion that she wants to pursue to make money. It's just a wild landscape to navigate.
And all this coming from a town that has Hildreth and Bradsby where bats are made. In fact, the guy was teasing me the other day. He says, with the advent of all the aluminum bats that are seeming to do wonderful things, maybe Hildred and Bradford down there will take down the wooden bat and put up an aluminum one just to stay in trend with things. And I
Be a
said,
pretty wild choice.
that would be pretty wild, and it would also be a great lightning conductor too. Can you imagine something that tall and aluminum sticking all the way up in the sky like that? Yeah, wouldn't want to stand to that close to that during a storm. But anyway, it's how does it change? I think maybe Hildred and Bradby could be somebody who could be sinking more money into the athletic programs that they supply bats for, softball and baseball. Why not? After all, you're local. You've got local teams. You're proud of your local teams. Why not put your money where your mouth is?
Well, because that would be putting their mouth where their money isn't. I mean, we saw as recently as last season when NC State was playing Louisville, and Louisville Slugger posts a hype video like celebrating NC State. I mean, from a business perspective, they would never do it. It's not like when we say UPS, give us money, please. Which also, hey, UPS, what gives? give us some
They've
money.
got a couple nickels to rub together over there.
Right,
I think.
like the athletic programs across the country are not changing who they use to ship things. You know, they're not going to go from UPS to FedEx because UPS sponsors U of L. But there are other bats and other program. You know, Louisville Slugger likes to supply as many programs as possible, and they also sell Wilson gloves. Like they have a significant business interest in remaining neutral. So I agree. It'd be awesome if they would give Louisville and softball money. You know, I don't think it will ever happen for that reason. Because they can't. I mean, it's a cutthroat sports products are a cutthroat market, and they will try to lose as few people to Nike or Adidas or whoever else would make bats and gloves instead.
Let's just hope that the Cards can manage to get some more funding in and keep the players that have come in here and done some great things. And we'll kind of leave softball sitting on the sidelines there, waiting to go ahead and take the field and move on. Hopefully,
I will say, Paul, I am a little worried with the baseball's success this season that maybe that money is probably being funneled that direction. So, like you said, hopefully somebody is paying attention.
well, they certainly were the darlings of Louisville for quite a while there with their successes they had and knocking off some very good baseball teams, and certainly Dan McDonald and some players that kind of won the hearts of Louisvillians here on the team and such. Dan has been doing it for a long time, and he's a good man at what he does. And he just happened the stars were aligned for him this year. They got a little further than they normally do, and certainly we love that for him. And maybe that success will kind of bleed over into softball a little bit too, where people will start saying, "Hey, those teams at Louisville, they got something going for them," instead of, "Man, that baseball team's got something going for them." Let's hope they talk about softball a little bit too, and see what happens there. Time will tell. Um, the ACC can only get better because right now they're running a distant second or third to what's going on in the SEC. Let's hope it changes. Let's move on into a little round ball on the hardwood and indoors with basketball. As we got some news the other day that Jeff Walls is going back to Turkey. Why? Because he's going over there and team up with Elif Istanbuloglu to be on the Turkish women's national team. And that's a big move for both of them, isn't it? Jeff Wall is going to be an assistant coach, and Elif is really one of the stars on that team. Okay, so what do we got going here?
Yeah, it's a return for both of them. Levelhead or Walls and Istanbuloglu. It would be fun if her name was Boogaloo. It'd be easier to say and it'd be fun. But
Yeah, but all glue. Yeah.
yeah, playing or participating at 2025 Women's Eurobasket, which is a FIBA event. So similar, if you are a soccer follower, it'd be similar to Euro, the UEFA Cup, or UEFA Champions League, but the Euro competition, which is between countries every year, which is kind of like a World Cup qualifier. So I would venture to guess that this is also a World Cup qualifier event, qualifying tournament. This is ongoing already, actually. It started on the 18th, and yeah, we've seen Walls as part of the coaching staff with USA Basketball a number of times. He had some assistance. I think it was in a consulting role. So he was with the U20 national team for Turkey last season, is what that was. So just going along with Istanbuloglu, which was part of how he ended up recruiting her, being over there in Turkey and engaging with their youth development program while she was there, building that relationship. And I think Turkey saw the success that he had working with coaches and players here on the U.S. team on the international stage, and said, hey, we would like to see more international success in European competition. So you all have a good partnership. You would like to continue to work together over the summer. We would like your expertise. And so invited him to come along. And I think that it can only do well for Walls, not only to continue to build that relationship with Elif, but also we've already seen him able to touch on more of the European talent and be able to scout and communicate with and engage with more of the young European players over there and try to woo them into playing college basketball and coming to the U.S. and coming to UOL to do it.
That's what I was going to say, Case. I think he's over there scouting, keeping his name in the headlines and in the forefront of people's minds, and also reassuring Elif, just like, hey, I'm in your corner. I support you. I mean, she made a big move to come here and play, and we need her to make a giant leap forward this year. So I think he's just, dotting his I's and crossing his T's. He's very smart.
Got to wonder a couple of things about Walls here. First of all, did he take the Wii chair with him? And will he be sitting on the Wii chair on the sidelines? And also, is he gonna try to get for a little more playing time next year? I know, sure, she played in all the games, okay, but she was only out there like 10 minutes of time per game, and somebody of her talent and abilities and what we've seen and the way it's developed over the last couple of years, you just kind of wonder, gang, is her junior year going to be the year when she kind of makes her imprint upon the ACC and people start looking at her in the same way that they looked at some of the great forwards and centers that have come out of Louisville? And of course, when I speak of those, obviously it's very simple to name a few right off the bat. Obviously, you're talking about Maisha Hines-Allen and the things that she's done in the WNBA. We're talking also about Emily Inkster and the success that she had in the WNBA. Is Istanbuloglu one of those players that could get there?
I hope. She's gotta be less shy. It seems like there needs to be a little more confidence there and a little more vocal. But she's got the size. She's just got to use it.
Case, thoughts on her?
I could see her not really being interested in the W. It's not the NBA in the sense that it is head and shoulders above other national top leagues around the world. Um, the NBA is to basketball what the English Premier League is to soccer. Um, the top teams host the top players. You're going to see a ton of those players on their respective national teams year in and year out. And the a lot of really good players are in that league, to be sure. But I don't see the pay is not significantly greater. The prestige is not significantly greater than a European player could get just going back home to Europe. I think that I could easily see her being more interested in playing in the Turkish National League or another European, another higher tier European league closer to home. That just keeps her more in. Her end goal is going to be FIBA competition with the Turkish national team, and so playing in a European league that's going to get you more FIBA style instead of more American style basketball, I think would be probably to her benefit, and I think she would potentially see more value in that. So I think that depending on how she develops with her conditioning and expanding her tools a little bit this season, and what we see from her with more of an expanded role, I think she absolutely could be the type of player to be successful in the WNBA, but I just don't know if that is something that she wants for herself.
Another thing I think you need to look at too is her role on the cards. In when you take a look at this roster that's coming back next year, well, I'll tell you, the freshmen that were the big influx last year, all of them are sophomores now. And when you take a look at some of these players that are sophomores and the time that they've got left and some of the things they've done, I mean, you got Anaya Hardy, who we've only seen just the start of the surface on. She's going to turn out to be a fantastic player, in my opinion. Amani Berry, one that gave some great time for the Cards. Mac Randolph, obviously, great breeding there, a player that can definitely turn games around. Also, you take a look at some of the others. Isla Jeffersman, who comes out of Australia, could be a very good center for Louisville. Reagan Bender's the one that really never kind of developed much last year, but was certainly a great guard at Louisville. Look at this team, Daryl. There's a lot of youth on this team. When you take a look at it, I think there's only, 2 seniors on the roster. And when you take a look at the seniors that are on the roster, they were players that transferred in from other schools. In Raina Scott and in Laura Ziegler.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you a little nervous, doesn't it? We love our 4-year seniors so much. They give us so much joy and excitement, and we love watching their development. So that's why their senior days are so hard when they leave. And we have our senior days with the players that come in for one season, and it's just kind of like, dang, I wish we would have had another season with them, get to know them a little more, use their skills. But it's just like we've talked about in the beginning, the nature of the business anymore. And Taj Roberts is going to have to take a big step up on leadership wise, and I'm excited to see it. But like you just said, it's kind of like a brand new roster. But in Coach Walls, I trust. I fully believe that he will prepare the squad for the next season, and we'll have our trials and tribulations to for them to get their feet under them, and then hopefully that things start to click and we have an exciting season. But somebody's gonna have to step up, because right now I'm not sure we have that person that's so that is the Olivia Cochran, like the glue, the emotion, because Olivia didn't hide it. She would never hide it on her face. It was totally visible, whether she was upset, whether she was determined. All of that was visible, and I think that was part of the fun of the game. So we need that next person to stand up. We need one of those, somebody in that role. I just am not sure I can put my finger on who it's exactly going to be yet.
There's certainly a lot of prime candidates there. And when you, of course, take a look back at what O did here when she was here, it was her team, and she made sure everybody knew that,
Yeah.
and that she was the one that was basically the one driving the Mercedes while everybody else was polishing and waxing it.
It's
On
like
this team,
when the
yeah,
team is down, who is going to be that person that says, "Listen, it's okay. We can do this. We got 2 minutes left to turn this thing around." Who is that going to be?
that's the big question out there right now. And I take a look at a player like Taj Roberts, and I think she's definitely got the potential with what she can do. The only thing that I wonder, and I don't know how it's going to develop after being here a year, is her leadership capabilities.
Right.
Okay, that's what we're looking to find in a player. And obviously, everybody was high on Reagan Bender and her leadership capabilities, but I don't know if she's basically a player that can step into a D1 starting role and hold it down. I just think there might be better talent out there. Maybe not better leadership, but better talent. But time will tell. We're certainly excited about what's going to happen with them, and talking about things that are rather exciting, at least rather exciting to me when I saw it happen, was Sinclair Savage. How about her? As she, of course, a athlete that has been on track and field and uh, decided that she was going to step up a little bit this year and train up a little bit this year. And a redshirt senior, knowing this was her last go around in it, she won the long jump. How about that? Let's kind of talk about her a little bit in her career.
Yeah, I mean it's a fantastic accomplishment for her coming off of a season that was cut short by injury last year. Um, and I think when anybody who's been following along with this Louisville track and field program and our coverage of it, at least, Sinclair Savage is not a new name to them. She's somebody that we mentioned a lot in the last few years. Before her injury last year, and then she's done nothing this season but continue to show why she was getting so many accolades in the year prior, before the injury. And when watchers of the Louisville program looked at the members of the team that were headed to the national championship meet and what events they were competing in, they saw Sinclair Savage and like, oh, that could be fun. She could finish with an All-American honor. Good for her. But all eyes were on Jaden Ulrich, and Jaden Ulrich had a fantastic season. She won a lot of medals. She was an All-American in both sports, and she probably was extremely frustrated with how her meet in Oregon turned out. But Sinclair Savage dug deep. She got it done on her final jump in her flight, and she won the long jump, which is Louisville's first long jump win as a program. Louisville's first national champion since Pole vaulter, whose name is going to escape me at the moment. But
I'm trying.
fantastic accomplishment for her, and a fantastic accomplishment for this team and this program under their new leadership, who sent the most representatives to a national meet, I think, ever. And the women's side finished the best they've ever finished as a team at a national meet. And, Sinclair Savage winning the championship was a major part of that. So, it was an exciting season for U of L track and field. And I think that they'll do nothing but continue to build on the momentum and those successes, because a lot of those players, or a lot of those athletes that advanced as far as they did, have plenty of years of their careers left. I mean, you look at the men's side, and they had a decathlon competitor who was a freshman who set records left and right. So, I mean, it's a great time to be a track and field Cardinal, I think.
It certainly is indeed. And people say, well, yeah, but their facilities aren't not that great. Well, listen, they have basically a facility where they can do everything they want to and nobody else goes into it. That's the track and field complex over there.
It's not
Right.
that new, but they have a track and field complex that was built to be a D1 soccer program complex.
Yeah.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah. The track is in great shape over there, and they have it certainly right on campus. They don't have to ship out to go anywhere. They don't have to go, get on a bus and hold meets that are home meets that are on neutral sites. It's right there and gives them a great chance to go do those things. And of course, Amani Henderson is one of the names that I'll always remember when it comes to Louisville track and field, but certainly we've had some very good throwers over the years. And also, as Case mentioned in pole vault and some of the other events, some athletes that have done well for them. So I kind of hope that all of them come around in the fall and can get things done.
National champion in high jump, I believe we had, which was Emily Scott, the volleyball player.
It was Emily Scott. That's right. Yeah, very very good catch there. So we get them there occasionally, and certainly it's an area that easily recruitable here because of the excellent facilities. Other fall sports, maybe we want to.
Gabriella Leon, that was her name. It just came to me.
Gabrielle Leon, that's who
Vaulter.
it was. Yes, it was. Pole vaulter extraordinaire. Yeah. And I wonder what happened to her. What she's doing these days. It's hard to follow up on track and field once they go on past their collegiate years, but certainly she had the pole and she knew how to jump. Other fall sports to kind of look at just a second: soccer coming off a 2024 season where they actually broke 500, which we were tickled to see. 7, 6, and 5. I know you kind of scratch your head on the 5, and you think to yourself, it's off all of the ties, but certainly it means that your defense is not getting beat by another team's offense. It's just you need to get a few more goals up there. Case kind of, when you take a look at what's going on with soccer and stuff coming up in the upcoming season, some of the names that we might think of and hear and look at.
Well, the first thing that comes to mind for me when I look at the schedule for next season is that this is an opportunity year. You're not playing Stanford, you're not playing North Carolina, and you're not playing Duke. Okay. Those are some names that you miss. Do you have to play Virginia? Yeah, but guess what? You get to play them at home. Do you have to play Florida State? Yes. On the road, first conference game of the season. Okay, yikes. That one's probably going to sting. But you also get Virginia Tech at home. You get Clemson at home. This is a winnable, it's a gettable conference schedule, which is not something we say about the ACC and women's soccer very often, but the opportunity is there. And they've got the schedule constructed in a way that is going to lend itself to a lot of momentum. Non-conference, they've got Auburn and Vandy on the road to start the season, 2 games away from home. Every other non-conference game this season comes after that and is at home. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 non-conference home games in a row. You play Florida State. Hopefully that doesn't obliterate any and all momentum that you had, because then you come back home and play Virginia Tech and Clemson and Miami 3 games in a row at home to continue conference play. This schedule is, it's good. Like, I'm gonna temper my optimism right now. Starting now, we're still 53 days out. I'm gonna take that. I'm gonna put it away. But there's definitely some chances there. You look at who is gonna step up. Mackenzie Gigley, Giggs as they call her. She's a senior this season. She scores a lot for U of L. She's going to continue to do that, most likely. She's going to come from the outside. You need more offense from the interior. We've talked about that quite a bit. Where's that offense going to come from? Hopefully it's going to start with A.G. Gibson and Betsy Huckabee. You've got some other players coming in that could help with that, like Liza Sudam. A host of freshmen. There's going to be a lot of new names to try to get to know this season. Almost all those freshmen are playing in development club leagues. I wrote an article a few weeks ago about just how many Louisville players are grouped up in a lot of cases, or were grouped up in a lot of cases in those summer leagues. Defensively, obviously, you're going to have Carson Cherry entering her senior season, will still be the captain of this team. In central defense, Aaron Floyd will be a senior. You've got a really good core group of players for this team. You had some transfers out from exciting names. Lauren Contini would be one that I think was a surprise and stung a little bit, but she wasn't getting the playing time that I think she expected, and she wasn't quite as effective as I think everyone expected of her. So looking at next season, those are the players that I'm looking for to step up, are the ones that we've seen a lot from already, and are looking for more in their continued careers. Lizzie Sexton, another senior defender, has been fantastic for the Cards, but looking at some of the sophomores, in addition to A.G. Gibson, I think Fina Davey has a potential to really step up on offense. We saw a lot from her. Emerson Jennings and Emma Kate Scroll are more seniors who will probably expand their roles. So, yeah, looking up and down the roster, it's exciting to see the players that we've grown to love. We talked a lot about softball and how it's been stars that move on, but for U of L, maybe we haven't had U of L women's soccer. Maybe we haven't had those players that are getting themselves in the conversation to be quite so profitable to move on, but also a lot of players that just seem like they're dug in and really loyal to this program and loyal to the city and see their opportunities with Racing Academy and moving forward.
Yeah, and the advent of Racing Academy and the things that they've been able to get done and accomplish here has certainly been a boon to the program. But Daryl, when you take a look at this program, 8 freshmen, which seems like a lot, but then you take a look at it, there's 10 seniors on this team. I mean, did the sophomore and junior class just decide to, take a vacation or go somewhere else?
Had to have. Something's missing there, because who was playing the year before and the year before that? I think just what stands out to me is, Case touched about it on the schedule, is just that the fact they opened the season on the road with 2 SEC teams, and then they're going to come home for like 6 straight games. So that's an opportunity, like you said, to just get on the winning side of things before conference play gets really underway. And I think that, I don't know how to think about that, Paul, if like you have your seniority and your maturity, but then you have your youth, and then hopefully if this class can stay together by the time they're seniors, that might be a little scary.
You got to wonder if it can happen and turn out that way, and certainly we hope that they all turn out to move on in their careers and be good players. But obviously one of the draws, and let's face it, is the having Lynn Stadium.
Oh yeah,
a showcase for soccer.
Yes,
and certainly I know that it's great to see teams that come in and maybe have never been here before, or teams that are hyphenated, in their name, like they're Tennessee Chattanooga, or yada 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 yada. It's just they walk in and take a look around, and they just kind of like stare at it, and they're like, "Wow, this is an incredible place."
You mean you don't think USC Upstate is used to playing in a soccer stadium like?
I just don't think that they've got the facility that we do, Case.
I'm still looking up when it opened. Do you all remember when?
Yeah, I was there.
Is it 2014?
Yeah, I think it was 14.
Close to then, yeah, and that's 11 years ago, and it's still one of the best venues.
It's due for some upgrades, but that just goes to show the just how quickly things can kind of get away from you from a facility standpoint. And it's also kind of a weird situation with NIL. Facilities used to be the way that you wooed players to come here. It was your major recruiting tool. And Tom Jurich, who maybe somebody will talk about him in their final thoughts. Tom Jurich made U of L a premier destination with the facilities that we built on Floyd Street. And now you look at some of those facilities. Jim Patterson opened in 2005. It's undergone some improvements over the years, but it is in dire need of some facilities upgrades because of the weather that Daryl talked about with softball. Lynn Stadium, it's beautiful. It was premier, top of the line, has hosted, USL games, has hosted a USL championship game. But 11 years on, you look at it and you say, okay, we can improve it. There are things that need to be done. There are some dead pixels in that giant Daktronics screen. That giant Daktronics screen costs a lot of money. And so you just kind of look at some of those things and you say, okay, how do we allocate those resources? Where do we say, if in men's and women's soccer, for example, NIL doesn't seem to be growing as much in that space, but U of L has a great opportunity with Louisville City and with Racing Louisville to be a premier destination. So I think you have to keep Lynn Stadium at the top of its class to keep people interested in coming here. If you come here and you get to play in a Dr. Mark and Sidney Lynn Stadium that is premier, and you get to go to games all the time at Lynn Family Stadium, which is premier, and you get to dream about playing there, maybe U of L can talk to Soccer Holdings about playing some of those premier games in that stadium. I mean, how cool would that be? Like, Lynn Stadium is on campus. It's awesome, but, like, how cool would it be to go play it at Lynn Family Stadium? I think it'd be awesome. But, yeah.
On that note, Case, I think I know what they're missing. And it just came to me, like, when Ken Lola was the coach of the men's program. You know what it is? It's that end zone. It's the Luligans, the big fan section that is missing. It's that.
Yeah, the boiling point is kind of a joke.
Yeah, I got you. Often, it's empty, and there's a huge appeal to soccer because of the fans that go crazy and how much they love their teams. And I just feel like majority of the time that section is empty. So I think the program needs to do a better job of getting students and fans active in that end zone and creating a disruption in a home game or a home field advantage. Yeah. Because if you go send them down to the professional field, oh great, now we're down here, that's cool and all, but still we don't have our fans.
Yeah. Don't play the doubleheaders on weeknights. That would be my recommendation. That would be a start. Let's not start one of the games at 4:30 on a Thursday.
I just think the fan, the desire, because I specifically remember when Lola was coached and I interned with the men's program, that getting fans and getting that group called the Luligans very active online and at games was a huge deal. And I feel like that's kind of died off for the programs. So, but I know that the stadium could use some renovations, but let's get the fans back into it.
Yeah, got to win the games.
Yeah, a couple things that bring fans into the seats: winning games, and also, for in the students' case, free food.
There you go. I mean, you don't have to just always pay a player. How about you spend $500 on some Dominoes and get these kids over at the stadium after classes?
And certainly it would be a great idea, and I'm sure that we have some places here in town that would gladly jump in there and say, hey, you want us to be the official pizza of Louisville soccer?
There you go. Listen to us. We just had our own brainstorm meeting.
Can we put that on our own box? Yes, we can do that, certainly. I would choose Beer Nose over them, but that's just me. I like Beer Nose pizza.
I'll take some Jets.
Yeah, good pizza as well. Detroit pizza, but still a good pizza. And now I'm getting
worse.
hungry.
Could be Papa John's. Oh, did I say that out loud? Oops.
Well, yeah, that's.
There goes our Papa John's sponsorship, guys.
Papa made his money, and now he's happy. go ahead and roll into final thoughts here. As we've covered some great things today, and it's hard to believe that we're almost through the whole hour here. But we'll go ahead and do some final thoughts, and let's go ahead and I just started out with you, Case. What do you got for me in final thoughts?
Well, I'll say it then. Congratulations to both Tom Jurich and U of L for seemingly mending some fences. It was announced last week, or earlier this week, I mean, that the city, because the city owns the roads there, would be renaming a portion of Floyd Street to Tom Jurich Way, in recognition of all the incredible things that he did to develop that portion of the road with all of the fantastic U of L facilities that we just mentioned. And a little bit inside baseball, there was an article from the Courier Journal that talked about how this wouldn't have happened without U of L having some blessing of that. Obviously, they must have agreed, which is true because the city owns those roads, but U of L is the primary stakeholder of roads that are on campus, which all of those roads are. And so, yes, they would not have changed the name without U of L saying that it was cool. And so that's very exciting as one of the architects of U of L athletics. In all of the successes that we've seen, it was hard to see the way that things ended with Jurich, and then until Josh Hurd, kind of the revolving door that we've had with his replacement. It's been difficult, and as a longtime U of L sports fan, where all of my formative years were under Tom Jurich's purview at the head of Louisville Athletics, it hurt to see that relationship devolve so aggressively. So, yeah, I was very excited by that news.
Certainly not a better man to receive it as well, because what he did for this program can never be duplicated again. Daryl, final thoughts?
Yeah, I'll just piggyback off of that and just say that, if I was in the brainstorming room of that decision, I would have probably made the choice to put the dedication on a football game instead of a random July Saturday where like 30 people show up versus everybody's already at the football game on the street that we're talking about. But I digress.
I think they wanted the seasons to all start with the stadiums on Tom Jurich Way. Is the only explanation that I can have for that. But I agree that it should have been more further out announced and more of an ordeal.
Right, and I'll still call it Floyd Street Live. I'm never gonna call it TJ Way. So just
That is a good point, Daryl. But on final thoughts for me here, I just kind of a shout out to volleyball. Dan Muskie. People would wonder how he would jump into things once Danny took off for Nebraska. He has lost no time at all. Bringing in 3 new commitments to the volleyball program. Looks like he's gotten 3 pretty decent ones coming in, filling some gaps that they had with a nice middle blocker headed this way. And also, Dan, let's never forget this, was basically the brains behind the coach for many years at Louisville. Sure, it was Danny who had to make the media announcements, and it was Danny who, had to get up there and talk to the press and after games and stuff. But if you ever watched the Louisville volleyball team, he was the guy that pulled them over in the huddles and started pointing things out to players. It was Dan Mesky. Dan, you're no longer a saddle groom and you're a jockey. Let's see what you can do with it. I expect great things out of him. I expect great recruits to continue to come in, and I think that he'll be able to pull in some players that will keep the Louisville volleyball tradition up there. So we're happy to have you. We're glad you stayed. The water's wide open. Swim as far as you want in. And with that, we're going to swim on out of here. Another episode of Cardinal Couple out of the way, done and in the books. Certainly want to thank everybody for listening to this podcast. whenever you hear it, however you hear it. And as we always like to end with, a very, very heartfelt and very, very sincere go Cards. Have a great day, everybody.